Ah, I'll tell you, the pain and suffering is so well worth it when you or when I have conditioned yourself, myself, to deal with the pain and suffering and to expand awareness about the world and pick the world apart. And you have to set yourself up for it. You can't just do what I'm doing just out of the gate. You really have to set yourself up for what I'm doing. And a lot of you are trapped in situations that you can't get out of. And I'm sorry, that's your situation. But some people have the freedom because they didn't trap themselves into marriage, into family, into really dependent friends who need you all the time for whatever reason. Some people already have the freedom to evolve to live, not evolve to die. Everyone has the freedom to evolve to die. That's what you've been taught. You've been taught to evolve to die. So even though I may have made that correlation, well, I've developed that logical fallacy that instead of creationism, we do evolution, but even evolution can be deadly if you don't support it. So then I had to take it up a notch further and say evolving to live, not evolving to die, because I see so many people out there taking my words and spinning it to their situation, saying, oh yeah, it's all about love and joy and happiness and evolving and learning new things, la la la. And I'm like, I see what you're doing. You're taking my words and spinning it to then fit your agenda, your parameter, whatever it is. And I'm like, nope, let's take it to another fucking level. Because obviously, evolving is already been used. It's being abused. People taking my words and spinning it to their situation. So now I'm taking it to another fucking step further. Evolving to live. And I don't see anyone out there in the health and wellness world or in the religious world talking about evolving to live. It's all about evolving to die and getting absolution and being saved and feeling the best that you can and living your best life. Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm coming from now the standpoint. No, it's not about just evolving, because that in of itself is not remarkable. All of us are evolving, but some of us are evolving and falling apart. Others of us are evolving and we're getting new awarenesses, even evolving and changing the way we look at things, like myself, and still eating, resting, feeling the pain and suffering of the body, pushing shit through the lymphatic system. And I'll tell you, yesterday I felt like I was carrying a very heavy backpack. I will tell you, I had the pressure and the pain in my shoulders, in my back, in my arms, even the knots that were under my shoulder blades, were inflamed. And I still just sat with it, dealt with it, ate food, took naps, rested, and still took care of my duties. And my husband doesn't put too much pressure on me because I take care of the basic minimum stuff. And I don't spend him out of existence. So that way, even he has time to rest when he needs to, relative to his situation. And so I'm evolving to live. But how many people out there are evolving to die? And that's pretty much everyone. And so, again, I will take shit to the next level. Because that's what I've already talked about before, was like, physical, biological, immortality. And that involves pain and suffering and understanding fertility. It's deadly. So yes, the anti-V people had an argument, but they couldn't stop at the VACCINESs. They had to now then look at their practices in the family, in pregnancy, normalizing girls get pregnant at such an early age, even at 30, 40, 50, normalizing having families basically is fertility, no different than developing antibodies from a public health therapy or having, again, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or a boyfriend for a boy and a girlfriend for a girl, and somebody mixing bodily fluids together. Because even spit, mucus, all of that, it's information. That's what the whole Washington Monument is. It's basically a large needle penetrating the universe. That was a symbol of America. That's a symbol also in the Vatican. Is biological DNA information script to develop extreme fertility, which is basically a depopulation agenda. But again, you could not discriminate and just point out the VHCCINESs. Then you had to look at people's politics around large families and having a bunch of girls and boys and the starvation and also taking the remedies, doing all the surgeries, which is another penetration, and the starvation. And so that's why I took everything a step further and said, okay, fertility is deadly. The last year or so, the last couple of years, I've noticed that once I start releasing those demons, a lot of them, that I only get my period twice a year, because I'm always going to be exposed to my husband, exposed to the public. I will always be breathing in microbes that will inevitably metastasize inside and lay dormant and then wait for the time is right when the algorithms trigger and cause then a replication. That replication could turn into a fast-moving cancer if the body doesn't have the ability to release. But my body does have the ability to release, so then I can release those demons, whatever they are. But again, when you're 39 trillion microbes that are a community of viruses, and that's why I posted the math symbols relating to the viruses. You are one person, and you have to the power of how many viruses that I couldn't tell you. Your blood types could tell you how many fucking viruses you hold within if you tested for everything. If they made the tests more sensitive, you would know you were full of AIDS and Epstein-Barr and herpes and other viruses that you may have heard. But the reason why people test positive is because they have reached a threshold and even surpassed a threshold of influential bacteria, which is then called viral sickness, bacterial infection. Infection is basically the 39 trillion, maybe 2/5, if we break everything down to fifths, because trillion is it's a large number, so let's take everything down to a hypothetical. When you have 2/5 of your body highly influential, that's called infection. You're supposed to release those demons, not hold them inside, but in a highly aggressive environment such as this, 2/5, which then could be translated into like influenza. Because I did list out in a hypothetical situation that every number from 1 to 5 represents a colony of viruses. And so when you get diagnosed with COVID or with influenza or with Epstein-Barr, and you have all the co-infections that are also then fighting for king of the mountain, then you have, yes, aggressive diseases. That's called evolution. But you're supposed to release the excessive ones. When it's influential, something else is to temper it, and then you release those demons and get everything back to relative equilibrium. And you have to allow your immune system push things through. And it's fucking painful. Let me tell you, I know how painful it is because I sat with the pain yesterday. And when you're sitting in pain and your arms are in pain and your hands are in pain and your wrists are in pain and your back is in pain, and then, and then I'm channeling that pain into speaking, channeling that pain into writing, channeling that pain into just being aware of everything around me and processing the information. That's where the advancement of humans' intellectual capability comes from. Is when you take that energy and you convert it to something that works for you, that isn't taking advantage of anyone out there, that isn't victimizing anyone out there. And so the system has to play both sides of the fence, because how many people out there have children, have issues with adaptation, and they can't handle it, and yeah, their body is breaking down. They see the writing on the wall as far as their own mortality, because they don't understand how to support evolution to keep them alive and deal with the pain and suffering, and so they're projecting. And when you're projecting that someone else is after you, someone else is poisoning your air, food, and water, and nothing is poison out there, it's just adaptation and evolution, then the system has to do what they have to do. And they're going to say, hey, fine, then you're right. And then they're going to give you all the evidence in the world, which you're seeing all over Facebook. Oh, look at the nanotechnology. Oh, look, there's more elements of heavy metals over here versus over here and all this other shit. And maybe they might change food supply. not change it for the bad, they just change it for whatever reason. Maybe because of the lack of tolerance. And so then you have people who are demonizing food stores. Whether it's Walmart, Aldi's, Giant Eagle, Safeway, Lucky, any of these grocery stores out there, they're like, oh, then only eat organic. You only eat out of my garden. But then you realize that with all the chemtrails, right? Your organic garden is subject to everything, the pollutants that you say are poisonous. So your organic garden is basically not fucking organic. Even if you tint it in some kind of green room, or green, what is it, solarium, or, I don't know. People put stuff in greenhouses, greenhouses. You're still subject to the environment. You're still subject to the wind. You're not immune to the things that are going on in the air, food, and water, in the skies, in the universe. But you see those who lack tolerance can't handle air, food, and water. They're having 1 billion kids. They're highly sexualized. And they have a dogma in politics, religion, and science. They're looking for a savior, trying to hunt for the Satan. So the system is giving you everything you could possibly fucking want. They'll give you a savior, a Satan. They'll give you all the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, the women, the men, whatever, all to your heart's content. And I'm telling you, sexuality, regardless. Fertility, regardless. Men or women. Men, women, women, men, women, whatever. It is deadly. Because you realize that when you're mixing microbes together, whether it's sperm to sperm and women's fluids to women's fluids, all of that turns into offspring. Because they're two separate entities. You are a separate entity, somebody else is a separate entity, and you're mixing fluids together. It develops offspring. Sometimes it's a disease. Other times it's a baby. Sometimes it's coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose. And then when you get around diverse people in a highly influential environment, then you're doing like a public ORGY. And then you have so many diverse microbes that are laying dormant. And then one day when the climate changes yet again, they metastasize. And then you get the diet suddenlies. And you also get a very specific thought process. What do you mean? Because the energy that it takes to convert the microbes that you're exposing yourself to and you're exposed to that you can't help because we're in a world, then that causes the brain to move and channel your lifestyle, your belief system, your positive religion science through your mouth, through your actions, through your activism. Activism is just manifesting what was already programmed into you. You watched me download the 80s, the last few days, through the gangster rap. Yeah, the Bay Area was full of gangster rap. The other side of the tracks wasn't that far. I mean, yeah, I was in Silicon Valley, so you really had to travel further. But, I mean, when you're in the South Bay and Oakland and, parts of San Francisco and other places, LA, are a couple freeways away, then you're relatively insulated. But when you're bringing the music and the culture into a homogenized home of sorts, that's a programming. Explicit rap is a programming. Explicit writing is a programming. Now, in of itself, reading stuff isn't bad, but then how do you process that information? And so when you're a young child, yes, processing information is going to be something going to be unpredictable and predictable. But if you can survive your childhood, which some kids aren't obviously out there, they're not surviving their childhood because they're being bullied to death or they have cancer and chronic illness, they don't survive it. But if you can survive your childhood, then one day you can organize all those memories into something that works for you versus working against you. But right now, in this environment, during this climate change, all the information that you've been exposed to is working against people. And yeah, they're becoming more fertile, more aggressive. And now watch with all these elections, with the whole thing with Trump and the court trials. Watching people losing their fucking mind. It's crazy. But it's actually quite interesting to watch the dynamics of our society, knowing the perspectives that I know. And so, but yeah, when you're sitting in pain and suffering, oh, it feels great, but it does, but it doesn't, because then you enjoy not feeling in pain. And so when I finally figured out how to say what cancer is, cancer, 30-day fertility cycle, aging, evolving to die is energy mismanagement. And so, like I said in my book somewhere, that in any human body, there are around 30 trillion human cells, but our microbiome is an estimated 39 trillion microbial cells, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live on us and in us. Okay? So people were releasing the demons back early on in the J world. They're releasing so many aggressive, influential colony-forming units that the immune system was desperate for it to push out, but people are taking medication and things to stop the body from releasing. So when I activated people's immune systems, yes, they were releasing demons. That could have been a future heart attack. That could have been a future cancer. That could have been a future fucking disease. But again, that wasn't the end of it, because that was just the beginning. And I've been going through this process the last 3 years aggressively, and even more so the last 7 years. And so it was like, you can't assume there's going to be an ending. And I'll tell you that I was not expecting, okay, the arm pain and the shoulder pain. And I'll tell you, I probably was incubating the flirt variant in the body, which probably was why I was waking up so early, highly aggressive, going through the heart palpitations, eating so much spaghetti, because I'm looking back on my behaviors since April. And all the spaghetti I was eating, the heart palpitations, the anger, the downloading of memories and shit, I'm thinking I was metastasizing and incubating a virus that finally, when the body was ready to release it, I was on the lake and the environment just sped up because it was hot. There was pollen in the air. It just triggered what was already inside. And that's when finally the immune system activated. And then, of course, the pain is the body pushing things out. But the aggressive release process was triggered by that one event that was already incubating from April. What are we in now? June? But I was incubating something from April. From the solar eclipse. And then, of course, all the tornadoes. So when you think about it, that's why everything seems so like it's linked together, because they are. And so when people are feeling the pain and suffering and whatever, they're taking more medication, they're getting more surgeries, they're getting more remedies, they are mitigating meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, vegetables, whatever. They think it's all poison. And so when the body had the chance to release the demons and rebuild, the person took away every opportunity to do that. And that's the thing, when that first symptom comes up, people try to knock out the symptoms as soon as it comes up. And guess what that does? That puts you way further behind the 8 ball. Until you're a fucking mess and there's no way for you to finally handle aligning your immune system, which is basically your 12, 11 different systems. And so, yeah, people keep taking themselves further and further and further behind the 8 ball with how many children they have, with how many animals they take care of, with how many people they interact with how many remedies and surgeries. And so that's why the medical system exists, because look at how many people are metastasizing the viruses in their body that you can't kill. You are life. As soon as you attack the life in your body, you'll start attacking people out there. As soon as you start attacking and starving the life in your body, then you become radicalized, because innately you know that your time is ending. Or you become love, 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 because what else are you going to fucking do? You can't be all full of hate, right? And then, of course, you want to feel good, so then you're under the influence. So you're juicing everything, and you're selling your concoctions to the world. You have all these supplements, and then now you're in a new religion called spirituality. Here's my diets, and I'll sell you everything under the sun that makes me feel good. But you can't, obviously, that's a logical fallacy to think that what makes you feel good is to make somebody else feel good, unless it is a drug that the FDA says, okay, a certain percentage are going to feel a predictable outcome. Others, well, they're going to fall in the cracks and feel different things. And so that's the only way you can sell something that makes you feel a certain way. And so, yeah, we've been caught up in the logical fallacies out there in the medical holistic, but of course that's because of the aggressive fertility in the population. All right, so that's all currency is basically the 39 trillion microbial cells in your body. And then you have to manage that energy conversion. That's also called currency conversion. And sometimes those demons work against you, actually all the time, especially if you believe you should die someday. So that's why I said evolving to live, not evolving to die. Evolving to live is actually more innovative than selling another way to fucking die, which is what the health and wellness world is. They're selling you another way to pass away that is FDA approved and acceptable to the masses. And so cancer is when you have mismanaged the energy in your body. Fertility and aging is also mismanagement of the energy in your body, which is why the less fertile you are, the more well-balanced you will be. And of course, if you have been diagnosed to be menopausal, then you're deteriorating, because being fertile twice a year is not the same thing as being menopausal. And so, yeah, when I was having my period every fucking month, that was an evolution that was so evil to me. That was what I was cursed with because of how highly estrogenic I was. And finally, the body wanted to balance itself out. So then there was more testosterone that came in at certain times. And then the estrogen kicked in. And I was so tired. And so when I was out there performing at the different agencies and companies that I was working for, that was the testosterone kicking in and giving me the energy to achieve major feats that some people would do like in 3 or 4 months. I did it in 2 fucking weeks because I had to. Because I knew the estrogen was going to kick in and cause me to be so tired and so hungry and so bloated and so constipated and all this other shit. And so, which is why the less fertile you are, the more well-balanced you will be. And of course, if you've been diagnosed to be menopausal, then you're deteriorating, because being fertile twice a year is not the same thing as menopausal. So again, why would I be fertile twice a year? Because the way the system has constructed the environment. I am a person who's attached to my environment. I am not immune to my environment. I do not resist my environment. So if my environment is so aggressive that the climate is changing so aggressively, and then being exposed to influential people, because you are all the time, you don't live in a fucking vacuum, you don't live in a box, then whatever microbes I pick up will metastasize and cause me to drop an egg. It won't get fertilized, but it'll drop an egg and it'll release. And then that's it. I'm now acclimated to the new environment and acclimated to the new aggressive variant called flirt variant and whatever's next, because there's always be something next. And so there's always, and then of course this fall, I'll have another egg drop this fall. So I can even predict now during this climate change when I'm going to get my period twice a fucking year. I don't get my period every month, but I'm also not menopausal. So if you don't understand, you need all food, release, rest, and retention, you will supernova like a red giant. And that's kind of what's going on right now during climate change. We have a lot of people who are red giants. Some of you might be eating food, but you might not be resting, and you're not releasing. You're just big ball of energy that one day will go poof. Women have the natural ability to rest because she has more estrogen than testosterone, which is a known energy booster. But women try to keep up with the men as well as other women, and they destroy themselves. I call that living on fumes. And you're also falling apart in the process. That's why these chicks are so skinny, are selling their diets to everyone and telling everyone to stay away from air, food, and water. Because if you don't feel anything, it's because you're starving. Just like that chick, I forget her name, Vera Wang. She's so skinny, right? And she's living off of fumes and chemicals and the environment. But as soon as she eats like a big steak and a lot of fattening food, guess what? She will feel sick because she's that deficient of the nutrition. And so skinny chicks, that's why, they might eat, they say they eat, but I'm sure if they ate the things that they needed to eat so they could sleep more, to repair more, they stay away from the foods that make them sleepy. They stay away from foods that make them feel sick. Sickness is the body trying to push things out and also retain and rebuild. But people don't want to feel sick because they have things to prove to people. They have money to make and trips to go on and parties to have and go to. And so, yeah, I guess they'll die doing what they love to do. So if men have more estrogen, then they might have a chance, but they're also going to be bigger because they have to release those demons. Some people call them beta boys or soy boys. So there are bigger men in our society that are probably a lot more plumper because they either retaining water or also some fat, which gives them an immune system. But all relative to how strong their vital organs are, whether or not they can survive like that. And so that's why it's kind of this new world is built for bigger guys and bigger girls, because they might have a chance to convert that energy to release demons and convert that energy into something that works for them. But you can't make something out of nothing. So the very thin men, who are also extremely wiry, are a ball of energy and full of testosterone. Because they're basically just testosterone. And of course, they look manly. Some of them have a lot of muscles, look manly. But then the aging process will kick in. That's the danger of being skinny for both men and women. When girls are so thin, they become like men, very full of testosterone, as well as highly estrogenic and highly sexualized, because that's what the system programmed into them. And of course, the boys will go after very thin girls and screw them to death, of course, which is why you see girls get pregnant at such a young age, because their hormones kicked in earlier and earlier, so they get screwed earlier and earlier, literally and figuratively. And I spelled that wrong there. It's Their, not, but how talk to text. And so when girls are so overly abundant, then they also have a whole issue of problems, and so balance for both sexes is paramount. Yeah, the system really fucked you up, but hey, that was the experiment. Remember, America was the last greatest experiment. But you all have a chance to fix the issues and balance everything if you understand what is deadly, which is aggressive fertility. But you know how that goes. People are addicted to hormones they can't get off without abusing themselves or other people. And that's the issue right now, is that people are so suffering and they're addicted. And even though I can't do anything about it, I can just observe it, but I'm not pointing at anyone in specific. It's basically everyone out there. What do you mean everyone? Well, how many people are doing what I'm doing and staying home and staying safe and really taking into account everything that goes on and have sat with the pain, have had intellectual awarenesses, can say things controversial, that is not accountable to anyone except for maybe one person, like her husband or their wife. But they have the freedom to sit in the pain and to sleep and to eat and to expand the brain. So I would say there's some aspects of people that are doing stuff like what I'm doing, but not really, because when you think about it, what kind of, if you don't have the support system around you, but I don't have the support system around me. I just have Facebook. How many people don't even have Facebook to turn to and say what they need to say, to be so honest, to get things off their chest? Because someone might troll them, or someone might think they're stupid, or they don't have anyone. They don't have a platform. So they're stuck either joining the crowd or sitting by themselves, circulating in the crappy energy, or they're looking for a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or girlfriend, or they're lost in animals and pets because they can't be on their own. So again, my situation is very unique, and it's something that I've built and developed the last 7 years. And so that's why families push the girls into marriages, so that way they're not responsible for the destruction of their own daughters and sons. Because how many mothers and fathers out there who are aging and deteriorating would want to take care of a hormonal 25-year-old? No, they push them out of the nest because it's like whatever, but they've taught their girls, go get married. But then, these girls are so like skinny and malnourished and highly sexualized, and mom and daddy don't have the strength anymore to do anything different. And so what do? They have to follow a certain plan that I guess, yeah, it works. And everyone's gonna make their choices. So that's why the family pushes the girls into marriage. So that way they're not responsible for the destruction of their own daughters and sons. Now people are each other's responsibility. And if you're in a fucked up marriage to someone who is cannibalizing the crap out of you, well, you've been conditioned to do that and you've already signed on the dotted line, I guess that's enjoyable because people don't marry people unless they enjoy the relationship. And so people will fall to their death at their own hands, signed on the dotted line. And they also teach their daughters and sons to do the exact same thing. And there's a destruction of the family and society and the depopulation agenda. And so that's why I'm saying that if a parent who's pushed their kids out of the nest have the time and the money and the space to save their own life, they might have a chance. Because some people my age who are in their 50s, 51, 52, 54, 53, 49, 48, how many have the chance that they don't have to answer? Maybe only their husband. If their husband is basically dictating their remove, forget it. But how many women out there who might have a chance to scale down their lifestyle and belief system and everything else and say no to their sons and daughters who are feeding off of them still and tell them, you're on your own. I got to take care of my shit, literally and figuratively. I'm not watching the grandkids. I'm not going to the birthday parties. I got to take care of this and I got to be sick. I got to do this. I got to do that. How many of them have that position and will take advantage of their position of, probably not many, but maybe some, but who knows? But yeah, this has been going on for thousands of years, the whole rise and fall of civilizations. And you're basically repeating history. Girls don't have a chance right now in our society, and boys don't have a chance, obviously. And so while I could say this from the safety of my computer, you try to tell this to someone in their face out there in the public, it's called fighting words. And people will sneer at you if you even say anything like this, because they don't want to know when they're going to die. They don't want someone predicting their death. But, I mean, it's all fucking predictable. Come on. That's the elephant in the room. That's the emperor has no clothes. Yeah. People will hate you for this. That's why you have the internet. So you have the freedom to say what you need to say without getting hit by somebody in your environment because they can't handle another truth. That's fucking phenomenal. And so, vectors insert information into a subject and they cause aggressive energy conversion and then aggressive fertility and then aging and then die suddenly. Even 95 is too early. And so antibodies are mucus and semen are information and they are scripts and they are programming. Now look at your societal constructs. You'll see why we're in a depopulation agenda. That's what the system doesn't tell you. It's all about penetration, causing immune system activation, and then utilizing more resources than the person can rebuild, retain, and release. Why do you think the children today are weaker than they were a few generations ago? Because of too much sexual fertility and immunological fertility, and a lot more diversity. And so, yeah. So that's why I posted that picture of a pregnant girl and then the VACCINE, because that's a vector. She was vectored by somebody. Okay, and then you have the US vector, the monument, basically the obelisk, fertility, immunological vector, male vector. And then extinction is fertility. That's the nesting, that's the Russian nesting dolls. They're showing you. There's Eve or Lilith or Mary Magdalene. And then you see everyone having kids until basically it's extinct. That's basically extinction is aggressive fertility. And that includes all the different viruses during these pandemics. Dying before 100, you haven't even begun to mature and understand the ways of the world or the universe. Do you really think you have anything of value to offer to your children when you haven't even figured out the world you're yourself? Young mothers and fathers, even people my age. Maybe you should rethink having children in a family. Because what kind of values would be teaching your daughters and sons? To be a single parent? To be used and abused by those who capitalize on your ignorance? Or to raise a family that will end up just like you, dying someday in agony and pain or dying suddenly? We need some of the Gen X and millennial generations to be the last generation who doesn't have to reproduce another generation to carry on their genetic line. But I have a issue with some of the millennials. I don't know if they have the ability to do that. I think they're too far gone. It really is a Gen X that will either make or break the world. Because the millennials are following their boomer parents, and they've been given pleasure in paradise, and maybe they're not working so much, so they're doing more the the extracurricular, more parties, more events out there, traveling, right? Being an influencer. And so the millennials are getting pleasure in paradise. They've inherited maybe some of their boomer parents' money. So what incentive do they have to work from nothing? They don't have it. They have huge families. They have inheritances. They're not going to fucking change. So when you think about it, it really is the Gen X that didn't make it in our society, right? That didn't have the friends, the family, the degrees, and all the trappings of wealth. So they can live on basically nothing. Someone like me, who can handle being on their own, being alone, who doesn't have to flaunt body, sex, and success, who doesn't need a bunch of people to back them up, who can be their own entertainment, not have to depend upon somebody else to entertain them. How many of those are in the world? I don't fucking know. Because people like me are either pariahs of society, like the whole J juice world, or they're by themselves wondering if they're going to fucking survive the people around them and their jobs and the world, that try to force themselves to fit in, and maybe even done things to fit in, like get drunk all the time, get stoned all the time, and get a bunch of, tattoos, and go and join organizations so they feel like they're doing something correctly. But how many people like me really are out there? You wouldn't know. You would not know. I just happen to be a fucking fluke. And so it's really the Gen X that were not raised like the average people raised in the 80s. Anybody's guess. So I'm not sure if the boomers and Gen Z are prepared. I might give a little bit of a credit to the millennials, but if they've been taught by boomers or taught by Gen X, raised by boomers, I'm not sure they're willing to break out of the box. Gen X is anybody's guess. Will Generation X be the last generation who doesn't have to reproduce another generation to carry on their genetic line, if they even can do that? That's my challenge to the world. And I was taught very differently. I survived all the sex offenders out there. I survived all the crazy kidnappers out there. I survived the bullies out there. Okay, I survived my fucking government. I survived the media. I survived Dr. Phil. And we were the latchkey kids. And we came home to no one. I don't think the millennials or Gen Z understand what it's like not having an extended family watching your every move and bailing you out of bullshit situations. Generation X, I call upon you guys. Some of you are Silicon Valley survivors, as well as survivors across the world. Do you think you have what it takes to survive climate change? And if you're a woman, you might have a better chance. I'm not saying guys don't have a chance, but I'm not sure if they're prepared to deal with internal pain and suffering. And remember, if you have to keep reproducing children, you will die sooner, and so will your children, because you just fractionalized each other's potential, and the environment is that fucking aggressive. And it is a 3-generation rule. The 3rd generation loses the wealth, or they have food allergies, in deficit, and have issues with the environment. I mean, look at John F. Kennedy Jr. So before that was John F. Kennedy. Before that was Joe Kennedy. And JFK Jr., he's dead. Why? Because he had the trappings of wealth. He had magazines given to him. He had wealth and pleasure and paradise and all the pretty girls. What did he date? Daryl Hannah and all the different people? And so he never built the wealth. He just basically enjoyed it. His dad sustained it, and he is enjoying it. So that's like a lot of millennials out there who are inheriting their boomer and their silent gens inheritance. So they're not going to have, or they'll get inheritance and then they'll spend it like that. They'll get $100,000, and guess what they're doing? They're doing shopping sprees, buying cars, going on vacations. You give money to anyone who has basically been given everything, they'll just spend it like that. They see no value in money. It's just something else to spend. You can't take it with you. Well, yeah, no shit. You can't take it with you. Yeah, that's called the programming to die. Whatever. And so, yeah, the black and white checkerboard. Now, why did I say that? Because women get the choice, but they play the victim because their mothers played the victim. They had to. When you're living in a patriarchal society and been sexualized at such a young age, yeah, and given, when you're exposed to all that dirty rap back in the 80s and all the love songs in the 90s and all the highly aggressive violence and sexuality in the 2000s, then you get these girls who have been sexualized by their mothers, then forced off into marriage or other types of sexual conquest. And all of a sudden she gets pregnant. Oh, no shit. But she has a choice. She gets pregnant. She can either have that baby carried to term and then be saddled with something that she's going to have to survive and pretend everything is great, because what else she's going to fucking do? Or she gets an abortion and figures out how to redirect everything that was taught to her. And so, when men walk away from situations such as women using marriage and pregnancy and everything else as a leverage to trap a man, men are fucking smart. But yeah, the system will hold them accountable as far as financially. But at this point, women always had the choice. She either has the kid and takes care of it, and B's the one to take care of it, because you can't there's no guarantee anyone's going to stick around you. Or you say, okay, cut my losses and do something different. And that's the paradox and the black and white checkerboard that was forced on girls in the 80s. Because you see what happened in the 80s. You had Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You had all the boys that were listening to the dirty rap and the Beastie Boys and all that. Yeah. And then you had all the magazines like Playboy. And you had all the posters of girls that are scantily clad. And you had like Nicki Minaj and Lil' Kim and all that doing all these explicit poses for these guys that are just like hot to trot. Then you have these hot sexualized girls that are wearing next to nothing. What do you think is going to happen? That was all planned out. And then you're faced with either getting an abortion and hurting yourself, but maybe potentially redirecting, or you get pregnant and have a family thinking that that's the end all be all. And then all of a sudden people's minds change. They start fighting, and then you have abuse and you have divorce, and oh God. And so people of my Gen X, when you think about it, a lot of them are set up to fail. But it's not failing if they're successful. What the fuck does that mean? And so, yeah, when I saw a post that someone said, don't date a man who's left his children. Men were victimized by the system. Men were victimized by the system. So were the women. So were the girls. And so I have no problem understanding the male point of view when it comes to the system holding the men accountable. No. The system trapped you. They fucked you up way back then. Mom was at home. Maybe she's on welfare. Just completely was a human experiment. Bore a lot of kids. Met a man. Thought the man was going to take care of her. Figured out that he was. And he left her high and dry. That shit happens all the time. So then she's left taking care of the kids. She gets welfare. The kids are like running amok, doing whatever. Because what is she going to do? She's basically, her hands are full. She doesn't have a fucking nanny. She doesn't have a lot of money. And so what do these kids do? Oh yeah, they're watching the TV. They're out there getting girls pregnant or getting pregnant. They're out there experimenting with drugs, alcohol, and sex. That was intentional of the system. Because what are these kids going to do like in Canton, Ohio and other places in the Midwest if they're not being groomed for something great like intellectual capacity, academics, or something else? If mama hasn't achieved really anything except for going from job to job or whatever else, what do you think the kids are going to fucking do? Pretty much not much. Unless they seriously have an aptitude for certain things that they find in the school system. Sometimes you find a jewel in the school system, like places like Canton, Ohio, or other places that are a little bit more, nondescript versus the two coasts. But the two coasts were groomed for fucking academics. They were groomed for a lot of stuff. And then Hollywood and biotech engineer people to do certain things through the movies, through all the VACCINESs. And then it's no wonder you have a town of like 100,000, and a lot of them are single mothers, and gang mentality, and intolerance, homogenization, violence, what else? Incest, sexual predation, sex offenders everywhere. That was all planned. And so if the woman is the one who becomes pregnant, she is then choosing a lifetime or of hardship or a very hard lesson. And so men are put into two positions. They dictate what happens to the woman, uteruses, like the fathers do, or they become the devil because he chooses to walk away. And men who walk away are probably the smartest fucking men because they don't want to be a party to that baby mama drama. They don't want to be stuck in that situation of knowing they're not going to fucking win. Not with that mother, not with her family, and not with anything in that whole situation. And so men that force themselves to stay in miserable situations and they use a violin, they think that's their badge of honor. You chose to. And some people know they're not parent material, and that's fine. If you know this and you walk away, you're fucking smarter than those that force themselves to be in a situation and be miserable and then pay for it later on. Some kids get the short end of the stick and they get abused by those who are forced in that situation. So when I see these virtue signaling people, oh God, deadbeat dads and deadbeat moms, you guys are stupid. Do you know why? How many kids out there? How many kids are there suffering? Because the system and the family and all of that have forced people to get married or have a child and bring it to term and also shun them. And so then people are guilted into taking care of something that they really have no capacity to do. When someone is that brave to walk away, knowing how fucked up our society is, that is probably the smartest person. That's the person I want to know. When they can walk away from a situation they know it's not good for them or that child or even that fucking mother. Because that mother chose to have that kid. She chose to use that baby as leverage. Women do. Some would say, I don't need anything from the man. I just want to let you know you have a kid and that's it. And that's great. I admire women that say, here, you have a child, but you have no responsibility for it. I'm not going to ask you for child support. I'm not going to hold you accountable. I'm just going to, here's your kid. You have the choice to want to know them or not. And if you don't, that's fine. Go off and do your thing. I admire women like that because she always had the choice to get an abortion or carry it to term. But to demonize a man for knowing what his capacity is at the time, and he's been victimized by the system, is some bullshit shit I can't fucking stand. And there are self-righteous women out there that I can't fucking stand. So that's why I don't have a lot of women friends, because I can't fucking stand a lot of my own gender because of what they do to themselves, and what they've accepted, and then what they project onto others. And they take no fucking responsibility for themselves. But a man took responsibility for himself. He walked the fuck away. And so I applaud people that can walk away from a situation that's not going to be good for anybody and make his life better. Now the kids got to figure it out. And so that's why I went onto that page. And it says, never date a man who has abandoned his kids or doesn't support them. Any man who isn't loyal to his children will never be loyal to anyone. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck. That's some bitter female that tried to trap a man with a baby, figured out it didn't fucking work, and now she's fucking bitter. Those are the women I don't want to know. I don't even care about them. I really don't. Because they can't fucking take responsibility. And now they're bringing down everybody and then forcing situations of which then you see abuse. And that's why I posted as a comment, but I also posted as my lead-in. Parent locks 6-year-old girl in a dog crate and tortures her, Pennsylvania officials say. So I posted that comment. Oh yeah, so you're guilting people into staying together and having a marriage and having a bunch of kids will potentially develop something like this. I'm not saying all people will do that. But what I am saying is, who are you to determine who is parent material and who is not? But the people who want to force parenthood onto people, they have been victimized themselves. And you know how people who are miserable, they can't wait to make other people miserable. Because misery likes company. That's why I walked away from society. I don't want to be miserable like them. I'll point out the shit and I'll see the suffering. And hopefully there's someone that's a little bit younger than me can see that. And people that are as old as me who've been through that has a chance to recoup the resources lost because they were caught up in a fucked up system. And maybe they can make their lives better. And it wasn't your fault. It was the system that put you through that situation. Now you have a chance to redirect and cut your losses and, repent. Because there's always going to be repentance, no matter what happens, whether it's intentional or, well, always it was intentional. But sometimes people are byproducts that they don't even know that things were intentionally done. I mean, the 1950s and 60s was huge experimentation. All the different, fertility, the IVF, the different control groups with the VACC, NESs, everything. And then it's no surprise that some women had 8 boys. Some women had 4 boys, 3 kids, 5 kids. And then, of course, so you had the boomers that had a bunch of kids. And then you have the boomers that have millennials or have Gen X. Not even the silent gens. And maybe they have 1 kid. And I see a lot of boys out there. Why do you see a lot of boys? Because that shows you all the antibodies. See, it's so interesting when you finally look at men and their position, just like even watching some of the Netflix series, like Your Honor, and you're seeing the relationship between the mother and the son. Wow. It's like he's the antibody. Could either be the protector or the predator. And he goes and it's like mommy dearest, Norman Bates. And so it's interesting seeing what the antibodies inside the immune system, what they look like and get translated into when they are actual people. And so boys become the antibodies for their mothers and for women, and they also become the predators or the protectors. And sometimes they're interchangeable, and it's all relative to what it is they're reacting to. And then you get parents out there who are really messed up, torturing their offspring, like they're torturing themselves. People get operations, they get surgeries, and they get oncology. They're torturing themselves. So it's not too far of a leap that parents who are fucked up in the head and forced to have children and guilted into it and guilted into being parents, then say, okay, well, I guess this is something I can go and abuse and enjoy it. And so you see what happens when you have so many people procreated on bodies in deficit and then guilting them into having children. You see what kind of monsters we develop in our society by doing that. That's the downfall of a society when we have advocated so much procreation and even turned it into a fucking religion and a political dogma. And of course, the sciences have to figure out how to fucking deal with it. And so, yeah, even though I don't love the medical holistic system, yeah, they're necessary for depopulation. I almost appreciate it. Not because I want people to die, because they have to control the monsters in our society and in people's bodies. And maybe they are what is stopping from society going completely fucking haywire. But again, I have to then I still have to be true to my convictions and understand that pain is suffering and life is suffering and all that stuff. And if you have the capacity to deal with it, then you could potentially push through all the shit and survive the climate change. Not everyone will, but I'm not speaking to everyone. I'm speaking to the people who probably have the capacity to redirect from the people around them who are under the influence, who are harming themselves. And of course, they're under spirituality. They're turning their life into a religion. So, yeah. The hurricane season is going to be bad. And so we were given the rewards first. Being born and being given everything you could possibly want, especially with people who spoil their kids. When kids never had to feel real pain and suffering and they're always getting treated for disease, eventually the devil does take his due. You were supposed to suffer first and then get the rewards later. You're supposed to earn your place on this earth. But being born, you're being given a position. And the system is saying, okay, here, you weren't asked to be born, but we'll still give you obviously a place to live, food to eat, climate to live in, a house to live in, relatively balanced parents, but even that's relative. And then one day you're going to have to pay the piper. Right now, that's that day. People have been paying the piper, and they've been suffering, going through all their bullshit. But it's very biblical, is that you're not supposed to just get everything for free. Nothing is for free. Nothing is. Somebody has to pay. And I'm not saying, oh God, the student loan shit, because that's a whole different ball of wax. But when you're born onto this earth from parents who just don't understand birth control, yeah, what's the payment system? It's pain and suffering to adapt. And when kids don't have the capacity to pay for their life because they have intolerance to air, food, and water, then the system has to say, okay, see you later. You don't have what it takes to actually pay your way into this world because you have zero tolerance for air, food, and water. Well, you have very little tolerance for air, food, and water. You're just consuming. You're not really giving back because you're not even evolving to live. You're evolving to die. So when people are evolving to die, what do? They consume, and it does nothing for them. How many people out there who are elderly are eating food, but it's not doing anything for them? They're just processing it and farting it out. And so then you get all the greenhouse gases. But they're not evolving to live, they're evolving to die, and they're consuming. And the system has to then replenish the resources that even an elderly person who has no intention to live, but they're just consuming. How many people out there with children and families who have no intention to live indefinitely, but they're consuming with no intention of longevity, of conservation? They're just a consumer. Well, the system has to control the consumers in our society who have no intention of conserving or changing or lessening their carbon footprint. They just consume to fucking die. And they eat every resource in that environment. And that's why the system is doing what it's doing. And you can't fault the system for that. I completely applaud them. But it's taken me the last 7 years and the last 3 years to figure that out. But when I'm sitting in the pain and suffering, like I have been the last couple of days, you get these awarenesses that people who have never had to deal with pain and suffering will never ever fucking get because they're under the influence and they're all about love, love, love and having a bunch of fucking kids and justifying it. And then one day their kids are not going to live or they die suddenly and they're like, what the hell? Well, someone told you climate's going to change and all these different antibiotics and therapies that were meant for you, mom and dad, because you have cancer disease and chronic illness, is also attacking your offspring. Because guess what? Cancer is an offspring. It's not an organized offspring. So if you're taking oncology for your cancer, imagine when you're breathing on your children, what your children are being exposed to, the antibodies that are attacking all your cancer, but also your fucking kids. That's what people don't realize when they're taking oncology and having VACCINESs, and even all the antibiotics they're taking, tailored for their genome. People don't think of cancer as an offspring. They don't think of their kids as a cancer. No, they don't. Of course not. It's all context, right? It's all belief. But when you look at things genomically, when you look at things physiologically, when you look at things relationship-wise, and when you're burying children, not burying, but bearing children, those are offspring. And when you're treating disease, you're treating the offspring. I mean treating disease. When you're taking a VACCINE that will cause an antibody to attack it. So that's what I'm saying. Those that are dealing with cancer and are taking all these different tailored therapies for their cancer, and they also have children, that's 2 for the price of 1. That's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The system is fucking strategic with that. That's why those that get oncology get all the different VACCINESs, and those that take all the different herbal remedies, yeah, you're just taking down your genetic line in so many different ways. The starvation, the exposure to diversity. And so really, when you think about it, families that are under treatments, they should actually stay away from each other. Because then the antibodies that are producing as an offspring to attack whatever offspring in their body is also attacking each other. Then it's all out genetic annihilation. So yeah, so that's why I had to take this a step further and say, okay, it's evolving to live, not evolving to die. Because if you're evolving to die, then you're just a useless eater. And that's what I'm going to say. Useless eaters evolve to die and they consume everything in their environment. But that was necessary based upon the intentions of the system post World War II. Evolving to live is about conservation and scaling down consumption without destroying yourself and the environment, without destroying your and the environment. So I had to kick that up a notch, because people are like, "Oh yes, evolve. I'm evolving." No, you're evolving, but you're a fucking useless eater. And so yes, useless eaters evolve to die, and they consume everything in their environment, but that was necessary based upon the intentions of the system post-World War II. Evolving to live is about conservation and scaling down consumption without destroying yourself and the environment. And that's the whole J world. When you can streamline the business processes where you take away the redundancy and you align everything so that way you can utilize your resources effectively and conservatively, and you're not all about pleasure and paradise. But that's the thing, you can't force people to change. You can't. So the system has to change the environment and cause then your consumption to become even more rapid, and those things inside your body that you refuse to release will consume you even faster. And so that makes fucking sense. And so while I'm sitting here suffering and dealing with the pain and suffering of retention and release, those out there, yes, you were given a great life, but you will pay the piper one day. And I'm not trying to be negative or mean, but that's how it works. There's always a payment system. It doesn't always look like $1 that you pay for that banana. Sometimes it's pain and suffering. But if you buy a remedy, then you're just adding another nail in your coffin. When you refuse to release, and you're hoarding fat and food, and you're hoarding trinkets and money and things like that, that's going to work. That's going to consume the fuck out of you. And so effective energy conversion is when you're not hoarding so much and you're not so much in deficit that you're a predator looking for someone to plug in the holes. And so yeah, useless eaters evolve to die, and they consume everything in their environment. But that was necessary based upon the intention of the system post-World War II. Evolving to live is about conservation and scaling down consumption without destroying yourself and the environment. And who is against this? Now you're seeing everybody, both the left and the right, against conservation. Because to develop offspring, you have to feed to go get all your different therapies and then all your pleasure in paradise. And so you're not going to scale down your lifestyle and your belief system. No, but that was a way of life. That way of life is going to the fucking wayside. That both the left and the right will be subject to. Those were the logical fallacies that people adopted. Because academic success is really not remarkable now. Not when you've been given all this information. You've been given the energy and the environment, a relatively peaceful world, relatively. And so those that are like, oh, my kid is so successful. Yeah, that's great. But do you think their body can carry them through? But you can't tell people anything. So you just you just observe things and let the proof metastasize in time. And that's what I am. It's just observing. Okay? And you guys will make your choices. And so, yeah, this kid that was bullied to death. Now, I'll tell you what, when I was bullied in school. Yeah, I was different. I was bullied all the time. And then when I went to juvenile hall and whatever, some kind of shelter, I got my ass kicked. When I was in a summer camp, I got my ass kicked. I got bullied, but I survived it. I fought people, junior high. Yeah. Maybe I was a bully too at one point. Okay. I'm sure I was. And so if you can't survive your peers, if you can't survive the environment, there's no fucking way you're going to survive anyways. What's the system going to do? Prosecute everybody? But they shouldn't be doing that. Well, at this point, what's it going to matter? The environment is so influential that everybody's strengths and weaknesses are coming to surface. And when you're in a schoolyard, you'll be forced to fight to defend yourself. Now, and girls and guys nowadays are formidable. When you get to a point where it's like not elementary school, where parents get a false sense of security. Oh, my kid's so great in elementary school. And then they reach like middle school and junior high and high school. Oh, let me tell you, the environment and the people are that much more aggressive. Surviving elementary and doing okay in elementary is like, okay, yeah, whatever. You see all these people with their cap and gowns. These kids are like kindergartners in cap and gowns. Okay, wait till you get, when they hit puberty. Wait till they're around people who will try them. And that's when the rubber meets the road. And so if a kid can't even survive their peers in elementary school, there's no fucking way they're going to survive the environment or their peers in junior high, because these kids in junior high are basically like little adults. They have matured so aggressively and their backgrounds are coming up so aggressively that some of these kids will not have what it takes to walk away from sexual situations, from violent situations, from religious situations, because they're very much invested into the religious world. So you know where that's going to go. You just hope they have a good life. And so, yeah, the system is not going to prosecute bullies in elementary school. That's one less situation they're going to have to deal with later on. One less kidnapping. One less death. I mean, they deal with it early. Okay, people get over it and they move on. But when you've invested 15 years into a kid and they die from bullies in high school, well, that's going to hit far worse than someone dying at like fourth grade, fifth grade. I mean, it kind of sucks, but that's the reality of the world we live in, because we have people who are developing children who are in deficit, who cannot even handle their peers. And so I got lucky that I was stuck in these gladiator situations, being up against some aggressive Chicanos, all these different gang members way back in where I mean, I'll tell you, that's why I'm downloading so much of the gangster rap, because I was around so much of that stuff. I talked my smack, got my ass whooped. Believe me, I've been there, done that. I know exactly the world that people are living in. And I was able to survive at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So when you have that background of being around some really tough people that were bred to be fucking tough, yeah, I will have a chance to survive. Doesn't mean I'm going to, but I had the chance to survive. And yeah, I'm surviving climate change right now. And it's fucking brutal. But I'll tell you, it's brutal dealing with the internal shit than dealing with someone kicking your ass once in a while. But I won't go down that road to get my ass kicked. I'm not going to spout off out there. I know I'm smarter now. But when you're a kid, you don't know any better. So you spout off until someone puts you in your place. But yeah, so I got lucky that I experienced all that, because that made me tougher. Yeah, it made me more aggressive. Abso-fucking-lutely. And then you have to calm that aggression down so it doesn't become predatory. And that takes time. That takes a lot of fucking time. So someone posted, would you blindfold yourself and eat whatever someone fed you? No, then stop letting the media do it to you. Stop letting your fucking friends and family do it to you. That's all I'm going to say. Friends and family are worse than the media. Because they think they know better than the media, but they're just regurgitating one aspect of the media. They're not fucking anything different. Jesus Christ. All right. People are trying to demonize Aldi's, whatever. And so try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. Yeah. Once you become successful in something, yeah, you'll get lost in the trappings of wealth. And then, what is it? Oh, you'll die for those successes. People right now are dying for their friends, their family, their activism, their politics, religion, and science. And that was intentional. And so, even though I can't do anything about it, I can observe it and even chuckle about it because it's so fucking predictable. So, yeah, sometimes not making it is actually making it. This transition into the new world is not going to be about success of hoarding money, wealth, family, friends, and societal achievements. It's going to be survival. That will look like so many different things. But as soon as you get a taste of success based upon your current society, you will die for that success. That's what you're up against. Luckily, I was never successful in a huge family, friends, societal achievements, and hoarding money, so I was allowed to survive and change and evolve. I experienced a taste of a very small amount of fame that actually worked against me. And when I was evolving during that time, I became even more hated because nobody could fit me in their box. When I became pro-vax, people were like, oh my God. When I was anti-vax, oh my God. And then I'm playing both sides, oh my God, right? When nobody can fit you in their box, nobody likes you. That's the new world. That's survival. Because when you have everyone liking you and you have friends and family cheering for you and pulling for you, then you're stuck in a paradigm. Because if you go outside the lines, then they won't cheer for you anymore. Then they won't pull for you anymore. Then they won't comment and say, oh, you're so beautiful and so this and that anymore. And people are so reliant on validation, they're trapped, they're done. And so when you can't fit in somebody else's box, that's survival. And when you don't have the crowd or a family or group of friends to back you up, you have to be strong on your own. You don't want to have so many people backing you up because you'll never survive on your own. Just ask the gang members who are caught by themselves on the wrong side of town. They can't survive on their own. The 80s gang culture taught me that. You need your crew if you can't survive on your own. Some people cannot survive on their own. They need people backing them up. And that's why the bullies always work in packs. That's the queen bees, that's the king bees, that's the cliques. It's basically a gang. You can have a Silicon Valley gang of homogenized, oh, I go to this college and I hang out with people that went to the same college and we go to the same football games. And so this is my gang. And then they go to a bar and another person's like, oh, we're rooting for Stanford versus, what's the other one? The other Ivy League, some other Ivy League college. And then you have them clash and you have all the jocks and the cheerleaders clashing together in some upscale bar in some place in Silicon Valley versus going into the ghetto and you get the Crips and the Bloods clashing together because they were on each other's turf. I mean, it's all the same shit. The sororities, the fraternities, all the same shit. Just gang mentality with different levels of money and fame and power and industry. So yeah, you have the movers and shakers in these Ivy League colleges and they're having a little gang mentality of the sororities and fraternities. And then you have those that are dealing drugs and, Grand Theft Auto, and you have the Eazy-E and the Too Short and all that, and all the different brown pride and all that. And so the Sureños and the Norteños, and then they clash together when they're found on each other's turf. And that's how the system studied those who were part of different types of gangs, Caucasian gangs, Hispanic gangs, Black gangs, all these different gangs, religious gangs, political gangs, family gangs. And then now you see what America was bred for, to be the antibody, which is either the predator or the protector. And that's why we've been used to go and kick down doors and go be peacekeepers and also show our predatory instincts. You saw that in Iraq. You saw that in the Gulf War. You saw it all over the place. And now you see why now it's time for America to reconfigure itself, which is why you're seeing then so many things going on. Oh yeah, it is so much bigger than you ever even can fucking imagine. And so, and being on your own, by yourself, there's something you must be conditioned for. You can't do it on your own cold turkey. You have to learn the hard ways of the world. And some people do not have the stomach to learn the hard way. They have to learn the easy way. And then it's easy way out, literally. Oh, I can't handle this pain. Okay, well, just get it cut out. Well, you just now cause more pain on your body by cutting out the pain. You've compounded it. That's the logical fallacy of operations. Oh, if you cut out part of their immune system, they won't feel it anymore. Bullshit, because the body's going to want to come back again, and the pain's going to come back when the climate fucking changes, or you get sepsis. and you get more infection, and people die from that. So biologically surviving on your own is not something not everybody can do. Some people can do it. Most cannot. I'm just representing the world I live in. I'm not saying you can do my world. I'm just representing, and that's it. Okay? And so I really have to learn how to step outside of myself and realize that my upbringing and my background is really not very mainstream at all. Because you might have people that are in the gangs in Silicon Valley or out there, but they never really got a taste of something else. So they get caught up in that. Maybe they switch from being a gang member to now working in academics, but they're caught up in the academic world. They're caught up in that paradigm. That's the black and white checkerboard. Either way you go, you're going to end up dead because you're going to adopt things that were predetermined for you. But they wanted to see you what it was like, just like Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. You switch their situations. I mean, yeah, they might be able to adapt and assimilate to their environment, but they both are going to end up dead. Because like the Rothschilds, the influencers, the Hiltons, marrying the Rothschilds. Yeah, they're influencers. They're cute. They represent money, power, wealth, and all that shit. But they're going to die in that position. They're not going to go through that process of looking ugly and big and misshapen and all that stuff when you go through a transition. So they'll die in their position. Die as that influencer representing a very specific, narrow dynamic that is famous in the upper echelons of the world. But that's how they want most people to end up, is, dying around their friends and family, promoting a specific belief system and lifestyle, and die for it. Well, someone like me has the freedom to evolve and change, because I'm not hoarding wealth, I'm not hoarding friends and family, I'm not hoarding religion, I'm not stuck in a paradigm, and I can evolve and change, and I can eat food, and I stay home and stay safe, and I don't tempt fate, and I learn from people around me what not to do and what to do, and I'm not resistant. And so try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. Trust the system, because that's all you have is the system. Or else you'll be subject to somebody else's intentions and even their consequences. The system is giving you all the freedom in the world to make the choices. All right? An intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself. And so someone posted this comment that I had to copy and paste. It's quite self-explanatory. If I had to expand on that description, this person says, I'd say that for me, an intellectual is someone who is open to changing their mind or having their minds change. Someone who is more interested in difficult or even disturbing questions than simple or comforting answers. Someone who demands a high level of evidence and uses consistent logic when evaluating evidence and also arguments. Absolutely. What's the evidence that I'm alive? Because I'm in pain when the environment changes or when I have to go and release demons. Again, I was metastasizing. I was incubating a very influential virus in my body that caused then certain behaviors such as aggressiveness, like being an asshole, as well as being up early every single fucking day, having the heart palpitations, having to go to sleep, eating so much spaghetti like I did this last few months. Oh, it was crazy. And then the climax of it was when I was on the water and I was sneezing like I was having multiple heart attacks. Okay? Okay, so that's the evidence that I'm alive, is that I actually feel the symptoms. And I don't remedy them away. I feed them and I feel the pain, and then I use that pain to channel into then my own awarenesses that not everyone's going to understand. But maybe there's something of value that I can offer to those who might have the capacity to process different information that they are used to. And so, yeah, Aldous Huxley. Unlike the masses, intellectuals have a taste for rationality and interest in facts. Their critical habit of mind makes them resistant to the kind of propaganda that works so well on the majority. Well, you can't be resistant. It's not that I'm resistant to it. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the propaganda. I'm aware of them turning Trump into a savior and then watching people react so predictably that I even get caught up in arguments with my husband around who Trump is and what he stands for. But when people are turning him into a savior, they're turning him into a type of martyr. I'm not saying that someone's going to do something, but you never know. And when you get that influential, the fall is just as great as the rise. And so is Diddy the new Epstein? So you have your white Epstein, like Epstein, and then you have your black Epstein, like Diddy. And they both were given so much latitude to show you how depraved humans can be, and also how amazing innovation can come from such trauma. Oh my gosh. And so there's got to be a certain amount of trauma and hardship for people to become stronger, but only the system can do that. And there are people who are developing children, cannon fodder for the system, who have absolutely no intention to stay alive indefinitely, that already they're going to consume everything if given the opportunity. So then they got to take these kids who don't really have a purpose and develop a purpose out of them. And sometimes it's in acting, it's in the entertainment industry, it's in politics, it's in religion. The system is utilizing like the fat and utilizing all the scraps of the meat and making them into hot dogs. That's what the entertainment industry is all about. It's taking all the things that people don't want or developed for a reason and turning them into something like a hot dog, a Spam, all the different cured meats. And so Justin Bieber, he has a chance to turn things around, but he's not going to. He's stuck in Hollywood. He's stuck having to deal with this trauma that he's went through. But he was dangled cars and houses and fame and fortune. And when you're like 18, 19, 17 years old and you're saying, here, someone's telling you, oh, here, I'm going to buy you a car if you do this. I'm going to buy you a house if you do that. Yeah, it's done. But you see how easy it is to get people to do what you want them to do when they don't have enough life experience. They're not groomed for anything specific, so they get groomed for something specific. And then when they're 30 or 40 or 50 and they look back and things come out, will they survive their own awakening process? And so you're watching Hollywood deal with their own awakening process of even what they went through that now is finally coming to light. It's brutal, man. And so, yeah, Hollywood is going through their own aggressive payback for the money, the power, and the prestige and the influence they were given. Everyone right now is suffering from the gifts that were given to them. And now they have to pay the piper because the devil is taking its due. And that's the whole world. Suffering is the payment system. That's something you're not told until you go through it. And then you will either try to end your own suffering through the FDA protocols and then accept the outcome, or you suffer to live. And that takes a very strong person, if it's even possible. All advanced societies go through aggressive growing pains. And I can guess the price is advanced society. The price an advanced society must go through, and a segment of it must be the lessons for the future. So basically, when you hear about Tartaria and all those buildings that were so intricate and so detailed and so like, oh my gosh, and they destroyed a lot of them. Some of them are still standing, but they did destroy a lot of them because they had to go and redo things to make it more cost efficient, energy efficient, and then all the things that were related to those buildings, like all the slavery and the suffering and the women being trafficked. There still are, but we had to go through another growing pains. So Tartaria was taken down, all that old world was taken down, even the giants, because there's still giants even back then, I'm sure. And the giant trees were cut down and all that. And so now we're starting over again. We're in a great reset. Even back in the 1800s was a great reset. This is just still more of what the system was trying to do. Okay? And so climate change, it develops influenza and the disease. And so men and cancer, that's fertility. That's disease. Women, babies, cancer. Fertility, cancer equals the aging process. So life is a virus. Hypothetically, you are 5 viruses, hypothetically, okay? 1 to the 5th power. 1 the 5th power viruses. So let's say 1 is AIDS, 2 is influenza, 3 is HPV, which is herpes or papilloma virus. Epstein virus, HSV is like a herpes simplex virus, right? And then Epstein-Barr, and then COVID. And so if 2 over 1 to the 5th power of you are influential, life catalyzed by, then yeah, there's frequencies that wake up certain things. That's why you have the different types of diseases that are more prevalent, like whooping cough or AIDS or Ebola or something else. Then you have, everyone has the potential to allow their body, their blood types full of viruses become influential. So then you have -2 because it's a negative, because you have so much of that influenza virus or microbes, colony forming units. And so you have -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 to the 5th power. -2 to the 5th power equals 32, a PCR test. Let's say that test was programmed for that algorithm, but if you hit a 32, then you are testing positive, you have infection, that person has aggressive influenza. So these tests that they give you detect certain parts per million in colony forming units of certain viruses that hold certain algorithms that have a specific name that's already been annotated and put into the genome out there. And the CDC is aware of all the different conglomerations of viruses people hold. And so cancer is a lack of effective viral management. Cancer implies people attack or starve themselves or take HRT, also known as remedies. So when you have something like influenza, and that influenza then turns into something cancerous, because now that -2 times -2 to the 5th power, that -2 to the 5th power maybe turns to -2 to the 100th power. That's fucking cancer. Okay? And so then cancer implies people attack or starve themselves or take HRT, also known as remedies. So I gotta write that down. And so if -2 to the -2 to the 5th power equals influenza, if -2 is influenza, then -2 to the, let's say, 100th power equals cancer. So a simple infection trapped in the body can turn into a fast-moving cancer, or if the person is lucky enough and they are a woman, maybe it turns into a baby, but not all the time. Okay? And that's why you have those integers and those to the power of, because that explains biology. And so -2 to the 5th power equals influenza if -2 is influenza. Then -2 to the 100th power equals cancer. So a simple infection trapped in the body can turn into a fast-moving cancer if the person is lucky enough, or if the person is lucky enough, they're a woman, maybe they turn into a baby, but not all the time. And that's what people don't understand. That's what cancer is. Yes, people hold different life forms inside, but how they manage it and what they do with it and how they understand symptoms is what determines whether or not they will live through the climate change or they die from it. And so now you see, when I broke it down and turned those variables into something that you can understand, representation of the different viruses, now you get why most people won't understand this, because they've been taking so many remedies to stop up their system. Maybe they're huge or they're so skinny that they won't be able to release enough to save their own fucking life. And that's the sad part of all of this. And that's why math is so important to understand. That's why your girls need to be more smart in the fucking brain and not so goddamn sexual that she'll destroy herself. But again, I can't be the one to determine the fate of your girls. And what about the guys? Well, if the guys are willing to put more estrogen in their body, they might have a chance. But if they're all about testosterone, forget it. They'll be another supernova. They'll be done. Okay? And so, cancer is a lack of effective viral management. Cancer implies people attack or starve themselves or take hormone replacement therapies, also known as remedies. Cancer is a byproduct of years' worth of OTC, over-the-counter drugs, herbal and prescription drugs, plus food mitigation diets, the aging process, is low-level cancer sucking the life out of people. Died suddenly, vital organ failure are from lack of nutrition and blood clots or drowning in mucus from a disabled release process. So when you're not coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose, and you have such a buildup of mucus in your lungs because of whatever situation, yeah, that's called drowning in your own fucking mucus. You've developed so much offspring, so much fertility that can't release because you have disabled your release process, and these kids are getting their tonsils taken out, which was their first line of defense. Well, their skin is their first line of defense, their nose is their first line of defense, but when you're taking their fucking tonsils out, so they're basically inhaling, there's no defense, and so they're taking in all this antigen that is now settling in their body, and it just takes another fucking climate change, and bam, there goes that child. Because they can't handle immune system activation. They're fucking done. So yeah, I was all aggressive around, I like the rap. I really like Too Short. I like Eazy-E. And some of it's real. I mean, I didn't play the dirty versions. I could have. I'm like, I'm not going to. But I mean, Too Short and Eazy-E, they can get even dirtier than what you're seeing. But go to your Facebook Reels and go into the music part. Hit the music and put in Eazy-E, and you can see, and Too Short, and you can see all the different dirty rap and all the rap that they have. It's pretty interesting. And so, yeah, the 3-generation rule, I talked about that. Waking up with slight feelings of pain. Oh, yesterday was actually a little bit more than slight. But I can understand now what people who have fibromyalgia and neuropathy go through, because it is an ache that you just can't get away from. It's like an ache in your shoulders, ache in your back, an ache in your arms, ache in your everything. My system was waking up the last few months when my arms were hurting to begin with a couple months back, and then it subsided. But then the next climate change, then it was full on immune system activation. And I just sat with it and I just dealt with it. And I channeled my pain through intellectual and downloading memories, and also, adding AI images, which is all those hood rats. And I'd say like hood rats and Bilderberg and worshiping Moloch the owl and all that. So I'm like hybridizing the 80s rap to my conspiracy world, to then just, the AI images and stuff. And so that's a way to channel information and hybridize it. So yeah, the eugenics crusade, and they're realizing that now you can actually gene edit people while they're alive. It doesn't have to be through dying and reproducing. It's just putting something out there, okay, like a person who has a lot of innovation, and it's your friends and family. Okay, that's why there's so much diversity, and then they get exposed to each other. And then you have to deal with gene editing while you're alive. That's what I'm feeling right now, is gene editing. And you can't get away from it. So you either have to assimilate or try to resist it and then destroy yourself. Or get a fast-moving cancer that'll destroy you. Okay? And so, yeah, as far as that double Baphomet, that guy Clay Greer, he made a very excellent point. So even though I posted, oh my God, look at these power lines and then the symbol of Baphomet, he goes, here's a good point. If the devil is delivering the power that runs my AC, then I say, hail Satan. And he's fucking right. I like it when someone balances the forces. And so there's that. Yeah. And so, remember, heart attacks and strokes and death are the ultimate cures for cancer. Heart patients are starving and on diets, as well as cancer patients, which is why the number one death of people is heart attacks and strokes. And only a few get lucky enough to get cancer, but even then, that's not enough. Well, there's a lot of people getting cancer right now. People are aggressively attacking the cancer, which is basically themselves and their offspring. And so when cancer is basically derived from a conglomeration of microbes called viruses, they are essentially an offspring of the original copy. Any virus are great in of itself until they become influential. Some viruses neutralize other influential viruses until they become influential themselves. They also have specific algorithms they respond to, and sometimes specific algorithms increase their potential for replication, which is why you're seeing an uptick in cancer during climate change. The irony is, when people develop cancer cures enough through the vaccines and any other therapy, the target approach becomes so effective that even people are not surviving their environment, because the target approach of the antibodies found a way to take a person down who was already hanging by a string. Which is also why I'm very concerned about personalized CANCER-VHCCINES is tailored for your immune system, because eventually those antibodies will attack you and destroy you, and also your offspring, your children. Okay? And so some people don't even know they're hanging by a string until somebody is dead or dies suddenly, which is why you never wanted to disable your immune system from expressing itself and releasing, because you could be harboring viruses that eventually turn into fast-moving cancers and then heart attacks and strokes before they even get cancer. The cure for cancer are heart attacks and strokes. And the system will give you plenty of catalysts to encourage the outcome of a heart attack and stroke to cure the cancer. Death is the ultimate cure for cancer. And the medical holistic remedy herbal system is by proxy the cure for cancer, which develops an environment for heart attacks and strokes. That's why you never can make correlation equals causation, because a person always has the last say how they manage the life in their body. And so even though all of us are exposed to cancer or have potentials to trigger it, we are also the ones who ultimately will release the demons and rebuild the body, or harbor demons to cause heart attacks and strokes. And so, yeah, you may not get the luxury to get cancer anymore because you won't even survive the journey to cancer. You might just die suddenly from a heart attack or a stroke. That's what's happening right now. Your immune system will be so aggressively on point that it will die suddenly instead of developing a cancer. That's some fucking strategic shit the system pulled on everyone. Remember, nothing is poison. We develop our own antibodies if given the opportunity, but what happens is our immune systems are so aggressive that we actually die by our own defense systems. Because not only have we disabled parts of it, but we've also allowed the system to activate it. And that's the thing, when you're disabling half your immune system of release, and then you're enabling the antibodies to develop, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Where do these antibodies go? They drown the person, or the person gets a blood clot or a stroke. So when you're disabling half your immune system, the other half is going to be so activated, that's like the negative isn't allowing the positive to replicate. And that's why people are dying suddenly. Because all their remedies, all their surgeries, all their friends and family, and all the positive religion and science, and then there you go. And so then our immune systems spits out so many landmines, and then we also don't want to feel pain and suffering of release, and so we harbor so many landmines that go off like July 4th firecrackers. And people don't survive the energy conversion. So I'm going to isolate this because that's some fucking shit. And so, Jesus Christ. And so we have people disabling half their immune system called release, and then activate their immune system called developing antibodies. And so they develop so many landmines that have nowhere to go, and they develop either die suddenly, but if they're lucky, they get cancer. And that's the thing of it, is people have disabled their immune system and they're screwed. So called release, and they activate their immune system called developing antibodies. So they develop, and sometimes it's the other way around. And sometimes it is the other way around. They allow so much release, but they do not eat enough, and so they starve themselves out of existence. And so, yeah, people have fucked up their immune system. Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. I think it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary watching it. Wow. And so, yeah, people are disabling half their immune system called release, and then they activate their immune system called developing antibodies. And so they develop so many landmines that they have nowhere to go, and they either develop a diet cell, but if they're lucky, they get cancer. And sometimes it's the other way around. They allow so much release, but they do not eat enough, and so they starve themselves out of existence. And so our immune system spits out so many landmines, and then we also don't want to feel the pain and suffering of release, so we harbor so many landmines that go off like July 4th firecrackers. And people don't survive the energy conversion. That's the starvation community. That's the skinny chicks that think they're hot shit, and that their shit doesn't stink, and they're all about fucking pleasure and paradise and selling you a goddamn lifestyle of yoga and all that shit. And they don't have a fucking immune system. They have nothing working for them. And so they're living off of fumes. And then one day, bam, supernova. Then you have all the chicks that are like retaining so much, they're not releasing. So where are these landmines going to go? Yeah, it turns into, more fat on the body, but also maybe even pregnancy. And then, even die suddenly, because you get a fast-moving cancer that just takes down their vital organs and then done. I mean, it's goddamn crazy, man. Wow. All right. And so cannabis is not a cancer cure. And death is a cure for cancer. Sudden adult death is a cure for cancer. Sudden infant death is a cure for cancer. The aging process is a cure for cancer. Aggressive overabundance and excessive emaciation is also a cure for cancer. Died suddenly is a cure for cancer. Right now, climate changes of tornadoes and hurricanes are also a cure for cancer. And that's why I posted another soul asylum runaway train, childhood cures, all these cures, run for the cure. Oh, yeah. And so I made this assertion that cold temperatures can cause blood vessels to constrict. So I'm feeling the pain of because it's cold in the house, right? Because it's being hot and cold. I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm releasing stuff. My body's pushing stuff through. And so I'm feeling so much pain in my hands and my arms and everything. And I'm doing the dishes. And I'm using warm water. And all of a sudden the pain disappears, because then I've allowed my blood vessels to expand. No more pain. I'm like, oh my God. Yes, cold temperatures cause blood vessels to constrict. Because I've even had to adjust my thermostat this last couple of days because of the pain. It would get so cold, I'd be in so much pain, so I had to turn the heat up. And I feel so much replication. I'm like, oh my God, this fucking sucks. You turn the cold on, you get the constriction. Turn the heat on, you get so much, replication. It's like you can't win for losing, right? So yes, cold temperature can cause blood vessels to constrict or narrow in reaction called vasoconstriction. This constriction helps to minimize heat loss by sending blood to deeper tissues and keeping vital organs warm. However, constricted blood vessels can also raise blood pressure and stress the heart. So there's that. So when the temperature goes from hot to cold and cold to hot, this is why people have heart attacks and strokes, because they're not conditioned to feel the pain of the body pushing through the blood through narrow constricted blood vessels because of the climate change. And that was something I actually experienced to then give me that, oh yeah, because feeling the pain disappear just from the warm water, doing the dishes in my hands, it was like, oh my God, an awareness. Holy crap. Yay. I mean, the things that you experience just being at home. You're not distracted. And so, people have been trained to attack anything influential. So imagine when your immune system, who holds so much diversity, develops something influential, they attack it systematically through the cures market until they can't survive their own attacks against their own immune system, or they starve themselves as well as their children. Instead of just walking away from influential things or releasing it, people want to go and square up and fight it to the point of destroying themselves. In your community, you walk away from fights. You don't square up. In your immune system, you release the fights in your body. You don't square up. And everyone must still be fed. And you can't starve anything out that you're trying to release, because they will latch on harder and even suck the life out of you. So people are on their diets. Oh, stay away from gluten and sugar and meat and milk. Oh, yeah, you're done. That's how I'm surviving my community and my own immune system. I respect the life of my body and I feed it, and I release the fight, but I do not ever square up and fight anything or attack anything. Now look at the population of people who attack anything influential. Even Trump. You're seeing the left attack him. I'm not attacking Trump. He's being used as a tool, but he's been programmed to do that. He loves the limelight, and the system knows this, so he'll be used as a tool. He'll be the Pied Piper leading all those that are Republican down a certain precarious road that they may not even survive. But that's the thing, is that the system will use anyone influential as a tool of destruction. And to be very careful. Languishing in the limelight. Because that energy, that light will destroy you. And that's why then it's no surprise that a lot of Republicans are Christian and very family oriented. But then on the other side of it, the left-wing liberal are all very sexualized. Okay? And so they have their own bullshit to deal with. So that's the whole binary arguments of logical fallacies that end up in death and destruction. And they're both attacking anything influential. Then I walk away from the left and the right, and I'm not even independent. I didn't want to even know. I just watch the war and observe it and be like, Jesus Christ. It's so fucking predictable. And so you will see what people do to their body when they react to someone they think is a threat. They try to carve it out. They try to electrocute it or radiate it. They even try to starve it out. And when you know this, that's why you're only influential on social media. That's why you're only influential on social media, and then be very careful who you circulate with. And then I block and delete anyone that tries to hurt me. And if you know you are influential, you don't put yourself in a position to be knocked down by somebody else personally and professionally. And that's what happens in companies. Someone becomes too influential, they become too popular, whatever. There's somebody out there trying to knock somebody down. That's the competition of work. So after my last few postings, do you still think having children is beneficial for your family, or are you a glutton for punishment? Your kids will inevitably get diseased, and they will be treated to death. I already see it happening. Kids getting rashes, and then mothers using all types of OTC and prescription drugs to stop it and push it right back in the body. But what you can do, you can't let kids suffer. So then, yeah, everything's great until it's not. Oh, I gotta pee. Hold on. All right. Oh, I have a little story real quick. So we're watching these scary videos on YouTube and stuff. And of course, it keeps you looped into the same series of type of videos. It's all about like looking for ghosts and stuff, or seeing ghosts on camera. And so I go upstairs and I'm watching my show and everything. And then all of a sudden my blind just falls down, just like out of nowhere, it just falls. And I don't know. My husband's like, remember, there's a breaking point. And there was a breaking point. Remember, these little blinds that they have, the previous owners didn't secure them, so they were hanging by a string. I'm like, uh-huh. But, I mean, yeah, a couple days ago, I felt a crazy presence, and it could have been the climate change and the weather shifting so much because of the frequencies. But also, people have said when they're watching these ghost shows, when I'm watching these ghost shows and they're in these ghost shows, they're saying, well, I felt the hair on the back of my neck prickle. I feel a weird feeling of just like a pixelation or something. And they didn't say this exactly, but it's really to the same tune that I was saying, that, yeah, you feel weird. Like you feel a presence, you feel the hair on your back of your neck sticking up. You feel even just weird things in your scalp. And so, yeah, the climate change plus then all the things that are going on, and me even releasing some of these demons, or who knows where the hell they came from. I couldn't tell you. But I'm telling you, man, the spirit world is extremely influential, but only if you are in, well, not only giving them life, but are you if you're in fear of death? And so as watching these videos, sometimes I look at what these people, how they react. And you're just like, dude. And you can't tell if it's something that was developed on TikTok or something. But I mean, I feel stuff and I know shit's around. And I've even seen stuff on the Ring camera that, like, well, that's a little bit questionable because it looks like movements that a human would make, but it's in a different, like, world or something, frequency or something. But it's intelligent movement. But yeah, I asked my husband, would you want to put a camera in our house? He's like, no. But I'm asking him when we're watching stuff, do you believe it? He's like, no, I don't believe it. I'm like, you're fucking scared. But I mean, I am too sometimes, but not really, because I mean, what can, I mean, I have enough immune system and enough spirits in my body, enough immune system to ward off the evil within the dead world. That's what, when you're sleeping at night, if you don't survive the night, it's because the spirits in your body could not protect you from the other side. The other side found a way to get in and activate certain things to cause then died suddenly. That's why people experience so much stuff around 3 o'clock in the morning, or people die, or they feel heart attacks and strokes very early in the morning, because that's when the body is the most vulnerable to the so below world, right? The whole as above and so below. And so that's why it's very important to strengthen your immune system so you can survive the night when you're sleeping. Because I have woken myself up choking on my own mucus. I've choked on gristle that I was so hungry for that I almost thought I was going to die. For a minute, I had the panic of not breathing. I could have died. But my immune system was strong enough to push out without having my husband do anything, because he was across the room. But my own immune system was strong enough to push out something that was blocking my airway. And then when I'm sleeping, my immune system is strong enough to ward off the evil spirits. And then again, do you see any of them flying by lately? No orbs. Okay? And so oncology attacks you, your chaotic cancer offspring, and your own children. Can you imagine what a cancer VACCINE will do during climate change? Oh my God. Once you destroy, attack, eradicate the cancer in your body, you are next. And even your own children and your offspring who have very similar genomes to the cancers in your body. And vice versa. When the offspring destroys the host, because the offspring and the host both have similar genomic sequences. And so if your kids are getting treated, guess what that treatments are doing to even the parents? They're getting attacked at the immunological level, but they don't see it as that because, you know, they're assuming they're going to die someday, and so they expect to get some kind of disease at some point. In other words, when a child is being treated for cancer, the parents are also exposed to the antibodies attacking the child's cancer, and inevitably the parents will hold some form of the genome within their own immune system. Which is why you get a lot of family violence, because they are working against each other since the climate has changed. Everybody's getting treated for disease, and then they're attacking each other through the treatments. It also manifests in behaviors. Offspring are cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and even your children. It's just a matter of how organized they are and how intelligent they can be. They, the cancers, just aren't just as organized as your child is. But your children have a direct similarity to the diseases in your body, as well as the cancers and tumors and growths you sustain and hold. And so when mommy and daddy are getting treated for cancer, you can only imagine those cures are attacking their own offspring as well, their own children. And if you don't understand genes and generations and family medical illnesses and the cures market, you'll treat your cancer and subsequently destroy all of your own offspring, especially your own children. Remember, the system is guiding reproduction carefully, and they say, be not a cancer on this earth, leave room for nature, leave room for nature. When you are successful in eradicating any disease from your body, you are showing how effective it is to end the life in your body as you know it, and even your children, and even you. And once you get diagnosed, the assumed outcome of die suddenly will happen. People predetermine their outcome of cancer to inevitable die suddenly. And so I probably had many cancer balls in my body, but I did not get diagnosed to give it life, and I just did what I had to do to let it spread and release and rebuild. I have felt fatty tumors, had growths, but I also did not need to get them diagnosed because I respect the life, I fed it, dealt with the pain and suffering, and released them. Once you get diagnosed or remedy or treat or get formally diagnosed, you have just predetermined your own outcome and you declared war on your immune system. So those back in the J world, way back when they're like, well, I'm going to see if the J world has done anything, so I'm going to get diagnosed and see what. Well, as soon as you go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, you just predetermine the action, the reaction. You're going to fight it, you're going to try to eradicate it, and you're trying to cure it, and you're done. Once you get treated for something aggressive, you have declared war on your immune system. Once you get a formal diagnosis, you have professed you will declare war on your immune system by all means necessary, even cannabis. The logical fallacy that cancer was something to be destroyed to save your life was meant for you to buy into when the system had to perfect the ultimate cancer cure. So you can imagine that cancers in your body might even have similarities to your offspring biochemistry, and so if you successfully eradicate cancer from your body, your offspring may not be as lucky. Of course, you won't be lucky either. And so anyway, yeah, so the whole climate change, all that shit, yeah, that's the thing. And so I will not donate to any of the foundations, the cancers and the cures, diet, disease research. I am morally against destroying people through the government. And that includes all the holistic supplements people are selling. A dream. That includes all the dietitians. And so the laws of entropy, cured equals okay or 0 Kelvin, okay or 666. And so yeah. So the cancer cures are the heart attacks and strokes. And then once you cure your cancer and you're in remission, you're next. If you keep getting the cancer coming back and you keep attacking it, the cancer keep coming back is your body trying to bring it to surface to then release it. But what people do, they keep attacking their body. They keep attacking their immune system. They keep carving everything out until there's nothing left. And so, yeah, it's done. And so cures equals die suddenly. People run, walk for death or die suddenly. Ironic, ionic. And see all these women with all the pink shit, right? Asking everyone to donate to all these cancer. Yeah. Truth in advertising. When you donate to my cancer awareness campaign to end cancer, you will have helped the system eradicate cancer. Truth. Call Diet Suddenly. Yes, Diet Suddenly took away cancer. Thank you for donating and running for the cures. All cures, even herbal ones, too. I'm saying this tongue in cheek. And so when you donate to cancer cures organizations, you probably are donating to companies who develop a surefire way to protect people from suffering from cancer. What? Diet Suddenly. No suffering, no cancer, no disease, just rest in peace. And that's what you're donating to. See, I told you. When there is no more cancer in the population and no uptick in COVID cases, why don't you check the morgues and the funeral homes? People pay for Diet Suddenly. No suffering. And they make it so easy. People love running for the cures. They love asking people to donate to all the Diet Suddenly organizations, breast cancer awareness, March of Dimes, St. Jude's. Diet Suddenly is just a cure for all diseases, even cancers. How can you say no to a cute face or even your suffering friends? People cannot say no to anyone, so they alleviate guilt and donate. And I can't even for the life of me imagine and figure out how they measure their donations to be a good, sound investment. People are still suffering from cancer. But wait, Died Suddenly will be that specific measurable result they made a sound investment. Running for the cures and donating to all the organizations you paid out of your pocket for all the Died Suddenlies. Mainstreamers are famous for donating to Died Suddenly. Right? I'm a trendy girl. Look, I'm wearing pink. And here, give to my campaign. And oh, here's my sob story. I was diagnosed one day and I decided that tomorrow I'm going to get my boobs chopped off. And you see that all over the population. Maybe Angelina Jolie did it. I don't know if she did or not. Right? And so logical fallacies are illusions. Companies donate to Died Suddenly. Queen bees encouraging their friends to donate to their birthday campaigns, fighting cancer. King bees playing on your sympathies and their muscles, finding ways for you to donate, taking all the suffering away from your friends and family, called cures, and then Died Suddenly. Ironic. And so how do you save a life? You have to end somebody else's, right? People don't want to suffer, so the less they have to suffer from cancer, the more lives get saved. When there's no more cancer in the population, lives are saved. Have you ever been in a circle of people where no one had cancer? I've never been around any circle of people where they haven't suffered from some kind of scare or another. What happens if people have cancer? They have to treat it to death. That's causing more competition and, yeah, more cancer in the population. Yes, cancer is catching and it is infectious. Somebody has to control the population to save lives, right? So the system will eradicate cancers even if it means a person will not be able to fight it anymore. They'll just die from lack of assimilation. That's what the system is eradicating, are the cancers on this earth. And people are choosing to be a cancer on this earth, and so they choose their own demise through all the treatments. Eventually, they won't be treated anymore. There won't be any more cancer anymore. It's quite a paradox understanding what the system has been doing, and they give you guys, and then you guys sign on the dotted line and even give your okay, and that's the issue with those who can't handle suffering. They treat themselves to death, and then they have to be around people so they don't feel lonely, and everyone gets exposed to the competition and fight disease and potentially cancer, and then it becomes a domino effect. That's why I walked away from it all. The Georgia Guidestone said, be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. And so what do? I take myself out of situations that will cause then replication, and I will only socialize very minimally. Something that I can somewhat control, but I will not be in a situation longer than what I have to, because then I will be contributing to then the immune system activation as well as the diversity. But people choose to, that's fine, but I choose not to have to deal with that and then have to go home and release those demons. Okay? Because I know inevitably the climate's going to change again in fall, from summer to fall, and that'll be another week of another flipping variant that they're going to be like, oh, now it's not the flirt, it's something else. So, yeah. And so there you go. So there's everything wrapped up. And I'll tell you, that this is the first day after the last couple of weeks since I had that issue. Was it last week or the weekend before? I forget now. Yeah, where I was sneezing so much. And I still feel sore. And you can see right here, like yesterday, I asked my husband, you see the circles in my eyes? Yeah. And even so, it's still kind of, I'm still feeling stuff, but it's not horrible. I had the energy to read what I had to read because I have the energy. I'm not deteriorating. It's just I'm dealing with life, and life is fucking painful. And this is the payment system for being in a diverse society with so much resources at your disposal. And you have to pay for that, not just monetarily, but you have to also pay for that immunologically. And if you're not willing to pay for that immunologically, the devil will take his due. Eventually, your life, the devil will take your life. What do you mean? Because all those swirling, diverse, metastasizing viruses in your body that you didn't even know you had until you had an infection, maybe tested for it, will then all of a sudden be triggered. And some people don't survive immune system activation at such an aggressive level because they were being set up for a major fall. That's called revelations in the Bible. All right, bye.